Joining us now, the number one consultant, political consultant on the Democratic side in America. If you want to win a race, hire him. If you want to lose, don't. Ben Tribbett, you can follow him at Not Larry Sabato. And 2017, Ben was the king. I might be the Godzilla of the truth. Ben was the king of predictions, predicting the onslaught of the Democrats, predicting it right down to the dime, plus, 17, right, or something. Nobody saw that coming but Ben, and he's joining us now. Ben, great to have you with us.
Hey, good morning, John.
Okay, just 1 minute on Redskins. Why all this drama now with your offensive guard? I mean, what is up with this? What is up with this guy?
Yeah, there's no drama, John. I mean, he's holding out. The Redskins got a good win last night, and Dwayne Haskins was looking really good out on the field. I think he should be the starting quarterback in Week 1. And if Trent Williams doesn't want to come back, the Redskins are already getting great offers. I think I saw a report yesterday they had already gotten a first-round offer from the Patriots. And so I'm sure that they will get a great offer in exchange for him.
I love Haskins. I thought that was one of the best draft picks you ever made. I couldn't believe you got him. This guy is really tough. I think he's underrated, and I'm with you 100%. Look, I'm not a Redskins fan, but I want him to win because all of my friends in Washington, D.C. are so much happier on Monday when they win, and they're all pissed off on Monday when they lose. So I just don't want to deal with that. So I really root for them to win just so my friends are in a good mood. But I think you're onto something with Haskins. Let's get to politics, Ben. First of all, I fired Joe Walsh. Secondly, I'm not bullish.
When is Virginia Political Memes taking over that spot?
I got to talk to him. I mean, I got to figure that out. He would be an interesting, at 9 p.m. to midnight, Virginia Political Memes would definitely be an interesting look, right? So I just have to talk to him. I mean, doing a radio show every day is really hard work, and he'd be on at night, and I've got to get staffing for that because, right now it just runs off the syndication wire. But he certainly should get some role, and I just have to figure that out this weekend.
I think this could be the top-rated show on the entire network, John.
Virginia Political Memes, but I might give him an hour and start there because it's tough to go from zero. It's tough to go from 0 to 3 hours in one day if you haven't done this. It's really hard to do.
Could I suggest, John, that maybe in a week or two you come back to Fairfax and let's do a show from my office again with him, because I thought that was one of the most entertaining 3 hours I ever spent in my life, was sitting in a room listening to the two of you.
We will get a date next week as soon as you get off the air. I will text a couple of dates, and we'll do it sometime next week. Perfect. All right. Excellent. All right. Let's get to Virginia. I'm not bullish on the Republicans. I was not, then I was, now I'm not. Right now, I've got the Democrats winning the state Senate 21-19, and I've got them at 52 or 53 seats in the House. As of today, I've got the Democrats in Virginia winning everything, mainly in the House because of the redistricting fiasco that has destroyed about 5 Republican seats. I just don't know how they get there, Ben. So let's talk about these. Let's start with the state Senate. What say Ben Tribbett, State Senate 2019?
Great. Well, so I actually put out my ratings, I think about a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I have the State Senate at 20 Democrats, 19 Republicans, and 1 toss-up seat, which would be enough for Democrats to take control of the Senate. I would say there's probably about an 85% chance of Democratic takeover there. The reason is that the Democrats only need 1 seat to take a majority in the Senate, and there are a number of very good targets. They're playing defense in very few places. A lot of people, John, I think, when they hear about Virginia this year and they see the Senate needs 1 Democrat, the House needs 2 Democrats to flip control, they think that these two bodies are very similarly situated. They think that the districts and the median district is probably very similar because the current makeup is similar. It's not. And in the Senate, the last elections where everyone was up was 2015. As you know, John, that was the last election before Donald Trump was elected president. And love him or hate him, Donald Trump being elected president absolutely changed the political world.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're seeing from 2019 to 2015 is likely there's going to be a lot better Democratic turnout in 19 than 15 because Democrats have just been fired up and angry since Trump became president.
Mm-hmm.
So that bodes well for the Senate to improve on its numbers from 2015. That having been said, 2019, I'm not seeing it be the level of wave that it was in 2017. I think the first year of a new president, but especially this president, but the first year of any president, really draws the strongest reaction from voters. And whether that was Bob McDonnell winning by 17 points in the first year of Obama, or George Allen winning by 17 points the first year of Clinton, or even Mark Warner when he had a 20-plus point lead in the first year of George W. Bush, which declined at the very end because of 9/11, but over the summer had a really substantial lead. You really see this in the first year of presidencies. And so I think that the House of Delegates, while the redistricting helped them, the environment is not as good as it was in 2017. And I think, so for overall in the House, I have the ratings right now at 47 Republicans, 43 Democrats, and I actually have 10 seats that I have in the toss-up range.
That's a lot of toss-ups. Well, let's get to the state Senate. You're right. The Democrats, there's not a seat the Republicans are going to take, so forget that. So right now it's 21-19. Dick Black seat, 13. Bell versus Higgins. I've got this one solidly going to Bell. I really see no scenario where Higgins wins. How about you? And by the way, Higgins is the Republican, Bell is the Democrat, and if Delegate Bell won from Loudoun County, that would make it 2020 if everything else stayed the same.
Right. So I have this seat at leaning Democratic. This is the seat that I have flipping that, before you even get to toss-ups, that would give Democrats control. I don't think it's impossible for Higgins to win by any stretch. There are a lot of races that go on simultaneous to these legislative races that can drive them. A good example of that being there was a sheriff's race in a small county just outside of Richmond.
Poquoson.
Last cycle that, I'm sorry?
Yes, Poquoson. Right, or not Poquoson, Powhatan.
Powhatan, that's right.
Right.
And that election turned out a lot of people and single-handedly reelected Glenn Sturdivant because there was so much turnout. So local elections can really affect it. There's a very competitive race for chairman of the Loudoun Board of Supervisors between Phyllis Randall and John Whitbeck. And one of the interesting dynamics of that is, let's say for a moment that race ended 50-50. If that race ends 50-50, the Democratic precincts in Loudoun, or the vast majority of them, are overlap with Jennifer Boysko's Senate district, formerly Jennifer Wexton's, formerly Mark Herring's Senate district. And the more Republican precincts were all put with Dick Black. So if the county ends up roughly even, and you would expect that the western part of the county, which is the currently the Dick Black seat, would be voting for John Whitbeck. So I think that the question mark that's still on there, and the reason I don't have it as a safe Democratic seat, but more leaning Democratic, is in that scenario, do we really see a lot of people voting for John Whitbeck and John Bell? Do we see 10% of voters doing that, something like that? I don't. I think that John Bell has to carry the entire Democratic ticket with him. I think that those Whitbeck voters probably are against John Bell, and so a lot of people are predicting that Whitbeck is going to make a very competitive run at this. I haven't seen any numbers up there to go one way or the other on that, but if Whitbeck does make a competitive run at it, that will make that Senate seat much more competitive.
Just your instincts and what you've heard anecdotally, you think Whitbeck has a shot in that race?
I do. I think that there's a, Loudoun County is very volatile politically. It goes back and forth. And, when you look at the 2015 race, it was a three-way race. There were two Republican candidates. There was one Democratic candidate. Phyllis was in the ballpark, 40% of the vote. She was well short of 50. And so she has to win over some voters that did not support her last time. But at the same time, Whitbeck has been a good fundraiser. He's not the strongest candidate that the Republicans can put up because he's got a very partisan background. I think he's running on smart issues for chairman. He stayed away from that in this campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But, he does have a history and he does have some baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And, a Republican Party chairman is not the strongest background you could come in at in Loudoun County right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that those races really play in together. And so you've got to watch them as a group because if Whitbeck starts to move or Whitbeck has a real chance to win, it's going to make that 13th Senate district much more competitive.
Okay, so then let's get to Sturtevant's district, which is kind of the greater Richmond area. And also, as you said, it goes into Powhatan, which is a solidly conservative county. And if last time there was a very competitive sheriff's race that drove turnout to put Sturtevant over the top. On paper, Glenn Sturtevant, great candidate, right? On paper. Hard worker, nice family, kind of a moderate, doesn't make waves, raises money. When I looked at this originally, I'm like, Sturtevant's going to win. The Democrats nominated pretty good candidate, Muslim female woman. So I don't think that mattered that much, but, decent candidate, but a name that no one heard of, relatively unknown. And so a couple months ago, I looked at this district and I'm like, and I think Sturtevant wins this. Now I'm not so sure because the ground information that I'm getting back is that Republicans that are knocking on doors in Republican precincts for Sturtevant, that the base is not happy with him. That is not a good sign, Ben. So now I've got this thing at risk. Give me your assessment of this.
Yeah, I think this race is a toss-up. I don't think that Sturtevant has ever, been someone that people thought would be, a base motivator. He has a very conservative voting record, very moderate persona, very conservative record. And so, those two things usually, someone who's going to be successful in a district like this is almost the inverse of what Sturtevant is. I think that having a more moderate voting record and a more conservative persona would actually have played better for him than what he's done. But I have the race at a toss-up. I think that, Sturtevant overperformed last election in the city of Richmond because he's from there. He knows a lot of people there. He does better than most Republicans do in Richmond. Mm-hmm. He underperformed in the suburban areas of Chesterfield. And then I think the reason he really got carried in the rural areas was the other elections going on. So I think this one's a toss-up. Obviously, the district went overwhelmingly for Abigail Spanberger last year. I would just highlight, John, that one of my House toss-ups actually overlaps with this in the 68th district with Don Adams. And those are some of the most Democratic precincts that are in the Senate district that Don Adams represents. And obviously, she's run into her own problems in the last month with the Richmond Times-Dispatch article about her former aide and her potentially having some real legal issues here. And so should Don Adams fall, I think that, again, that will have a big impact on this race. I don't see Don Adams losing her race and Glenn Sturtevant getting beat so badly in those precincts that he loses the district. I think Don Adams has to survive in order for Democrats to pick the Senate seat up.
Okay, so that brings us to the House. Let's just go two more Senate. Siobhan Dunnavant running against Debbie Rodman. My projection is Siobhan is a beast of a candidate. She's going to win that district. I mean, that's the last Republican I would ever want to run against in my life. If I was a Democrat, she's a formidable campaigner. She understands politics. She's a baby doctor. There's a percentage of people in her district that she's delivered their babies or been at their bedside. And she's a great candidate and a great lady. Rodman is not going to beat her. So let's put that one in a box. Then let's get to South Side, where you've got the Republican candidate, Kagan's mom, veteran, running against House of Delegates member Cheryl Turpin, who's very liberal. I really can't see Turpin winning that district over Kagan's. What say you?
Yeah, so I have that seat at leans Republican. I actually have both of those open seats at leans Republican. I think Turpin, to me, is not the strongest candidate that we could have put forward in that seat. I actually think Rodman is the strongest candidate the Democrats could have put forward in Henrico, but Donovan is a very strong incumbent. So you have a much stronger matchup going both ways in Henrico than you do, I think, in Virginia Beach. I would just highlight again, John, this overlap issue. This is where you really see how much these things can matter. In Henrico, voters have not shown a large amount of crossover in these types of races ever in history. And so, to me, when I look at Rodman, she overlaps not only with her open seat, but with the Van Valkenburg seat, who had his own little small issue earlier this week when it came out that he had, said on Facebook that he also considered himself a socialist at one point. Mm-hmm. And the Republicans put out a press release about that. And it's a few years old, but that's not going to help him. I know that's definitely coming to direct mail boxes in Henrico. But so the Rodman-Donovan race really is going to be affected by those two House races, and those House races are going to be affected by the Senate race. And if you're right that Donovan is going to win substantially, that's a +2 for the Republicans in the House. The Democrats are not going to hold those House seats unless Rodman is at least super competitive with Donovan. And if she wins, obviously, I think the Democrats will hold both House seats, and that will put them on track to potentially take a much better shot at taking the majority in the House. But if Donovan's winning and the Democrats are losing those seats, I think their pathway to the majority is very, very slender.
I think the Republicans can pick up 3 seats in the Central Virginia area. I think Garrison Coward is going to win. Mary Castleberg is going to win. Gaydon is going to win. That's 3. So you say, wow, Republicans are going to pick up 3 seats, right? Life is good. No, it isn't, because you start looking at these maps, Ben, and there's 5 seats where I'm telling you there is not a good chance for Republicans to win. The Gordon Heisel seat in Poquoson, gone. That's 1. Maybe Chris Jones hangs on. I don't know. It's like Democrat plus 25 now. That's a tough seat for him. So even given that, the David Yancey seat in Newport News, gone. There's 2. Is Tim Hugo going to survive in Northern Virginia? Last time he won by 200 votes. I don't know. If they lose that, that's 3. Then you've got the seat. Then you've got Kirk Cox defending his seat, right? Then you've got Paul Mild in Fredericksburg. He is not going to win. So there's 4 or 5 seats that the Republicans are going to lose right off the bat just over the redistricting issue. Even if they pick those 3 up, they're still a dead duck for the majority.
So I have the seat in Poquoson, 91st District, as slightly leaning Democratic, the Gordon Heisel seat. I think actually that's moved where it's now mostly in Hampton, but I think that probably will be a pickup for the Democrats. It's in my toss-up column, but that's because I haven't really created the slight lean yet, but Democrats certainly have an advantage there. And I think you're absolutely right about the Newport News seat. I think that's going to flip. Tim Hugo, I haven't likely Republican right now. That seat is very different in off-year elections. I actually don't think he's in as much trouble as people think he is to date. Let's see what Dan Helmer can do, but I haven't seen anything yet that indicates that he's really plowing into that off-year electorate. To the point of Speaker Cox and to Chris Jones, I have both of those seats at leaning Republican right now. The Jones seat obviously is very Democratic. The Cox seat became slightly Democratic. But one of the things that people really shouldn't underestimate with those 2 incumbents, besides the money that they have, both of them over the years are both very mild-mannered people that have done a lot in the community and particularly worked with the African-American community in their area. And that's the key vote that has been added to their district as African-American voters. Don't assume that when you look at statewide results or other national type of numbers where the African-American vote is coming in 90% plus for the Democrats, that it's going to come in at 90% plus against local candidates that they know and like. And I think in Chris Jones and Kirk Cox's case, you're going to see them get a much higher percentage of African-American voters than most Republican candidates get, and that's going to make that makes those districts much tougher than what those statewide numbers might look like.
What about Mill Day for Fredericksburg?
That seat gets very Republican in off-year elections. I have it as a toss-up. I think that obviously if the incumbent had been renominated, he would have a good upper hand, even as close as it was last time, because the environment is better in a off-year. Mildy is getting a better environment, but is a worse candidate. So I put that as a toss-up. I think that will go down to the wire on election night.
All right, so we got to just make some right now. If the election were held today, and this is neither of our final predictions, if the election were held today, I see Democrats 21-19 Senate, Democrats 52-48 House. If the election were held today, where is it?
I think that you have +1 for the Democrats in the Senate, making it 20-20, and +1 for the Republicans in the House, making it 52-48.
For Republicans.
Right. I think right now, because I have the 47-43 with 10 toss-ups, I'm going to split the toss-ups evenly and say 52-48.
All right. Good deal. Okay. I just got to ask one other question. Ivan in Woodbridge says, ask Ben. I can't wait to get his answer. Who's going to be the Democratic nominee 2020 for president?